So welcome everybody to VMware's Time to Talk, where today we'll answer some of your questions around what it's like to have a career in sales and pre-sales in a big tech company. I'm Sara. I've been at VMware for a bit over 3 years. I joined in 2017 as a graduate for the Italian market, and I'm currently a cloud sales specialist for the UK and Spain, and I'm based in Barcelona.
Hi, my name is Coleman Moore. I'm originally from Ireland and I've been working with VMware for about 2 years now. And I joined in the grad program the year after Sarah. And I'm working as a digital solutions engineer, so more on the technical side than the sales side. And I've been living in Barcelona now for almost a year doing the role.
And I guess without further ado, let's get right into the questions. So question number one from Daniel: how do you make your first step into technical sales?
To be honest, for me, I never really knew of technical sales as a career path. I did computer science in college, and I always thought I was going to go down the development route. But after doing a couple of like work placements and working in the summer doing it, I realized that it really wasn't for me. I kind of needed to be talking to people, and to be honest, I was just procrastinating doing a project, studying for a test one day, and I was rolling through loads of job postings on a job site. I just came across VMware. It said you didn't, you were going to spend a lot of your time not coding, talking to customers, much more face-to-face interactions. And I just applied for it, threw my hat in the ring, didn't really think much of it. And then it just ended up here, thankfully. But yeah, it just kind of fell into the role, to be honest. I never really saw myself here.
Yeah, and I mean, I think for me it was kind of the same. I don't have a technical background. I studied marketing and international business at uni. The only thing I knew after graduating was that I wanted to go into a graduate program. I think it's a nice way to kind of get into the job market, not like rapidly after you graduate. And I think VMware kind of caught my attention since day one of recruitment because of the people mostly. It's the way it kind of felt naturally that I was talking to the recruiters, and here I am. I didn't really know what VMware was at the time. I think it just kind of took a bit of effort to kind of like jump in and go into the tech sales track.
Uh, cool. So, question two is from Ala. Um, can you give me specific details about your day-to-day responsibilities of the position? Sarah, I suppose.
Yeah, I think, well, that's a bit of a tricky one. So as a cloud sales specialist, I take care of the whole sales cycle. So from like the first prospecting phases to closing. So I think the day-to-day changes widely according to the time of the year, at the time of the quarter. So it can go again from being a bit more focused on account planning at the beginning of a quarter and prospecting and qualifying new opportunities to then the end of quarter where it's all about closing the deal. So it's a lot more like internal processes and internal chats within the teams to kind of get the deal closed. And yeah, I think I did back in the day when I moved to Barcelona, I did a day in a life. So I don't know if it's still out there somewhere in Instagram. So I might go and find it out. And what about you, Coleman?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, for me, to be honest, it's every day is different, you know. The day-to-day task is to come in and to be almost like an assistant to the sales team. So it's quite hard to find people with technical backgrounds to do sales roles. So it's much easier to have a wider sales team. And then when the conversations get a little bit technical, then they bring in our department. And we have tons of specialists in each different product or product line. But what I'm a generalist, so I like to call myself a jack of all trades, master of none. Um, so I basically go in, I talk to customers, I talk to the technical teams within organizations on the feasibility of our products, helping them achieve their technical goals, how they're going to achieve certain business objectives through technology. I just kind of make sure everything kind of lines up. But that's not all my role, it's quite an open job. We can kind of pick out things you're interested in and maybe
Mhm.
neglect some things you're not so interested in. So like outside of just talking to customers, we'd also be involved in like training people, Making sure that there's a good knowledge base of our technology within the company as well. And it's really wherever you see a gap in the company, you can really just kind of push your own initiatives. So yeah,
Hmm.
it's really up to you what you want to do day to day. If you're technical and you like talking, it really is, the world is your oyster, really.
That's cool. And I guess we'll move on to question three from Peter. What background and skills are required for pre-sales?
Yeah, I suppose I'll take that one since I'm on the pre-sale side.
Hmm.
So yeah, you would uh, to be honest, it would be best to have some form of technical degree. Like myself, I have computer science. Most of my colleagues would have some background in IT, but it's not an absolute must. There are people who
Hmm.
come in from engineering backgrounds. I know a graduate this year has come in from a math science background. So as long as you have some form of technical mind, if that makes sense, if you're quite good with technology, if you're willing to put in the work and really learn the technology, because it is quite a lot to learn, Yeah, once you have some form of IT or engineering background, then you would be able to get a pre-sales role. It would be quite a lot of work if you're coming from maybe like a history degree or something like that. But again, if you've no degree and you've spent 5 years working in IT in a data center, by all means you can apply. You just have to prove your next technical knowledge more than having some form of degree. Yeah. Um, so yeah, question four is coming from Gabriel, and it's a three-parter. So suppose I'll go part by part. Part one is which is the most challenging aspects of the business? Um, I think I'll take that one just
Yeah,
because,
cool.
yeah. So for me, the most challenging part of the business is also maybe my favorite part of the business. Like if you look up VMware news on Twitter or wherever you get your news, we are constantly acquiring new companies. We're constantly moving into new areas of business, constantly releasing new products. And for our roles, we have to be on top of this technology. We have to understand it when customers ask us questions, understand the value, understand how it works. So it's a constant kind of battle trying to keep on top of everything. And it can be challenging at times to ensure that you know everything when you're going on calls with customers. It is a lot of study. If you don't like learning, it's probably not the best kind of role for you to go into. If you're a fan of technology, which I am, and you love kind of learning new things, understanding the cutting edge of technology, how it's really being used out there in the market. It's fascinating. You really get a chance to get in under the hood on these technologies every day, really understand how they work, and it's not boring. A lot of the times when you work for a company on this side of the business, on this technical sales side, you might be working from a company that just sells one type of firewall. You spend all day talking about the one thing. If you come to VMware, it's really not like that. You can spend one day learning one product, and then the next day you can completely change to a different field of IT and learn all about a new product. And it really, really, it's both the best part and the worst part. You're never going to be bored, but you're never going to have nothing to do in the day either. So yeah, that would be for me. The second part of the business, I think, Sarah, if you want to answer this one, is how would you define our culture?
Okay, yeah, I'll take this one. And I think a good thing about VMware is that the culture is not just a set of values that are written somewhere, but you kind of live and breathe that culture every day. And I think for me, one of the best aspects of it is the community side of things. It's a very collaborative space, both within your specific team, but like with the wider team. I think especially in Barcelona, the way it's structured, it makes it much easier to kind of collaborate between all the different teams. And I think also from like, I think it's very flat in terms of like you can talk and collaborate with the VP as well as with your peers, which I think it's great in like in a big company, in a big tech company like VMware is. So I think yeah, that's my takeaway on culture, VMware culture.
Perfect. And the last part then is why should a junior graduate choose VMware? I suppose I'll answer that one as well. Yeah, so it kind of comes back to the culture, I suppose, in a bit, as Sarah was saying. The fact that, yes, it's a very large company, like it's one of the largest multinationals out there, but it doesn't feel that way, especially out in the DSE in Barcelona where we are. It's quite a young, fresh organization out there. Everyone is quite young. Most people will be in their like mid to late 20s, maybe early 30s. It's quite, it almost feels like a startup. And also within the grad program itself, I'm sure, Sarah, you can contest to this as well, but you get a massive kind of network. People have this
Hmm.
big thing about networking, which can
Definitely.
kind of be awkward. But when you join the grad program, you get to, like I joined with 30 other young graduates, and they're now spread across Europe. If I was to move to France, I'd know people in the industry working in France. And also, not just my graduate program, but the graduate program above me,
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
2 years above me, even the graduate program the year below me. We all kind of help out because we've all been through it. So we spend like this year with the graduates that came in, myself and Sarah both spent time kind of
Yeah.
helping out, training, making sure everyone was okay. We were both set up as mentors, so whenever some
Hmm.
graduates had some problems, we would be there to make sure everything is okay. Yeah, it's quite a nice kind of safety net, but also you're getting the best of both worlds. It's almost like joining a small company where everyone's really nice and everyone has time to talk to you, but you have the benefit of having, a great, highly recognized company on your CV when it goes down the road. You get the best training, and like kind of Sarah said, you're not just thrown into the deep end either. They really let the graduate program roll, and you can spend a lot of time kind of training. So yeah, it's kind of the best way to join VMware. And I
Hmm.
think, not being too biased, I think it's the best graduate program out there.
Not being too biased. Okay, let's move on to question 5 then from Ernley. What are the challenges that VMware is facing with all the COVID situation while recruiting new employees? Okay, so I guess this COVID has affected us all, and it has affected the recruitment process as well. Everything has had to be done virtually. But I think the good thing with VMware is that we do have the technology as well that would allow everybody to onboard from anywhere in the world. So that was one thing ticked off, and I think VMware kind of helps you with sending all the equipment and everything that's necessary to make it easier to work from home. And I mean, we had to switch everything online. The whole recruitment process assessment center for the graduate was done online, which was a bit of a task at first, having it done physically for the past years. But I think we're happy to say that everybody's onboarded successfully. So it's been at the beginning during like the proper COVID time, we've tried to make it interesting by kind of getting to know each other through a lot of virtual beers and making it like taking away that side of things and like kind of growing that network as well. And I think now with all the restriction kind of being released, like all the graduates have started to move to Barcelona, and VMware has helped with that move or help with the relocation process. So I think everybody's now set up and ready to kind of start. Well, not for now, continuing to work from home, but like start with the new life in Barcelona. And I think there's also a lot of internships and opportunity which will be remote. And I think this gives a lot of flexibility to people to kind of do an internship and start with internship and being flexible enough while continuing to work from home. So yeah, I think that's kind of it from me on this side. Uh,
Perfect. Yeah, so the next question comes in from Jesus. Um, will VMware be part of our daily life? Will it replace current hardware we use to buy and be the highway to allow end users work in the cloud, a cheaper access to the latest technology and updated computing? Yeah, so there's a lot there. I'll probably break it down into three pieces maybe. First of all, will VMware be part of our daily life? Um, to be honest, it already is a part of your daily life. You just wouldn't really notice it. We're a business to business industry, so we're not really marketing ourselves to the end user. So you might be kind of unaware of how dominant we are in what you do every day. I believe the numbers at the moment are 85% of applications run on top of our software. So you probably use some form of application running on our software at the moment. 100% of the Fortune 100 companies have our software running. You have companies or organizations like Nasdaq, the stock trading firm. They run our security software, and like all defense forces would use our software for technology. Even this morning at 8:30, my father is a police officer in Ireland, and this morning he sent me a picture of himself using one of our products, Horizon, VMware Horizon, um, to log into his the internal database of criminals from home. So he even just my dad, he would have never noticed that he was using our software before, only that I've been kind of asking him, what is in there, what are you using with? So even just this morning, you kind of see that, yeah, maybe I would have never known of VMware really before I had ever joined the company. My father was using the technology every day, and he didn't even realize. So it is already a part of your daily life. You just mightn't really you notice it. And I think 9 out of the 10 or 8 out of the 10 top telcos in the world, so telecommunications companies, they're running our software on their networks to allow it to run faster and achieve like 5G. So yeah, you're almost certainly using some of our software already. Will it replace our current hardware? To be honest, it won't ever replace hardware. Um, we're a software company, so we always have to install the software on some form of hardware. What we have done is we've definitely reduced the amount of hardware people have to use. So in the last 20 years since we've been running, we've reduced the carbon emissions by, I think it's like 50 million tons or something ridiculous like that. So a lot of the times when you work for these big companies, you have to kind of fight a moral battle internally where you're like, look, I have a good job. These are hard economic times. Maybe the company isn't doing the best for the world. But when you work with VMware, you actually kind of feel a bit good for yourself because we've actually made a difference in reducing the climate change because you now have to run less servers to run these applications. You have to spend less on electricity. There's less on cooling, and it actually is making a difference in the world. So, yeah, we're not going to replace all the hardware, but we're definitely reducing it. And are we helping people get to the cloud? Absolutely. We're a cloud company, kind of. We're definitely not a public cloud. Um, like you might hear of like AWS or Azure public clouds that people host their applications on. While we don't offer public cloud services, we allow private companies to run services much like a public cloud. They get a lot of the benefits of a public cloud without actually having to store their sensitive data on someone else's servers. So we do allow a lot of people to run a more cloud native kind of approach without actually moving to the cloud. So a yes and no answer there, to be honest.
Okay, so moving on to question 7 from Farah. What are the opportunity VMware offers graduate? So I guess there's a lot of opportunities both in sales and pre-sales in Barcelona. You don't need, even though it's in Spain, you don't need to know Spanish. I think the corporate language is English, so you'll have to know English. And there's positions offered for, I think, pretty much every language from like French, German, Dutch, Czech, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese. I think if you want to have a deeper look at the options that are available, you can go and check out the career site, which is www.careers.vmware.com. So there you can see all the options that are available, and you can start kind of looking at applying for them. So that's a good thing. That's all online.
Cool. Yeah, and I can always contest that as well. I only speak English, which is pretty embarrassing when you work in a company that everyone has 5 or 6 languages. I feel kind of stupid sometimes, but yeah, all you need is English, and you'll be fine. So you can work in Spain and not speak Spanish. Don't tell my old Spanish teachers that. Um, so yeah, question 8 comes in from Maxine. What is the structure of the grad program, and which technical knowledge is required for the incoming professionals? So when you join the grad program, this year has been a little different because of the lockdown and stuff, but hopefully if when you join the grad program, it will start off in Barcelona. So VMware will help you on your relocation out. They'll help you find your apartment, get set up with all the social security, everything like that. And once you go out there, you'll spend the first 6 weeks training. So you just honestly, if you have never heard of anything in IT ever before, that is completely fine. We're going to slowly bring you through it. We're going to tell you everything a million times because some of this can be quite complicated. Don't feel too worried if you're not even that technical. A lot of the people on the sales side that joined with me would have sworn they weren't technical before. In the first few weeks
I
they
was
were
one of
sweating.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, and now all of them are flying away at the job, no problem at all. So you spend 6 weeks training, and then if you're on the sales side, you start kind of call shadowing, following other people who are doing the role, understanding exactly, there's so much to do with the role that isn't just calling customers. It's planning your accounts, everything like this. Um, and then if you're on the pre-sale side, the technical side, like me, it's a much longer process on training. So you can spend up to 6 months training, and you could even specialize in a certain industry. It really just depends on what you're doing. But for those first 6 months, you're just getting constant assessments, training, practicing your skills. You get both technical and sales training. So if you're very technical, but you don't think you're very salesy, and you think you might get nervous on phone calls, don't worry about it either. You'll get a lot of chance to practice and to train from like top class trainers. And then after those 6 months, you'll slowly start to get involved in the actual job. So it's a slow process, but it's quite nice that you're never just thrown into the deep end. There's tons of people there with you to make sure everything's okay. If you're too stressed out about something, it's all about kind of where you want to go in your career. Like that's a huge thing in the grad program. The structure is, what do you want to do? You'll never have someone telling you you're going here or you're going here. They'll always ask you, would you rather move in this direction or that direction? So yeah, the structure is, while there is a set structure, it's quite flexible depending on what
Mhm.
you want to do. Yeah, so once you come out to Barcelona and start training, it can kind of go anywhere, to be honest.
Yeah, and kind of just to add on that, because yeah, I was one of the people that were a bit scared at the very beginning to join a tech company, and the first let's say week where you get thrown a lot of like technical terms at you, you kind of get a bit worried, but you do have all the time in the word to kind of assimilate the concepts and learn. And after that, after the first months of training, both like technical and soft skills, you're in a much better place to kind of go on the sales floor and start shadowing and start having contacts with your customers and kind of take it from there. So I guess we're reaching the last questions. So from Diana, what advice would you give someone fresh out of university?
For me, to be honest, I would say just kind of chance your arm. To be honest, like when I was reading through the VMware um, job posting for the grad program, I applied thinking that I was never going to get it. To be honest, I I didn't have much confidence in my technical ability. Because it was very coding heavy, my course. It wasn't like I love talking to people. I love explaining things. And I thought it was more of like an admin role, to be honest, when I was applying first, until like I got that first phone call. And a lot of people will, you won't be too confident in your ability. Maybe some people think that they won't get the job. Maybe they won't be great at it. But there's no harm in trying. You never know. You might surprise yourself. There's tons of people I know who were very, very nervous when we first joined. That they weren't the best presenters. They might have been good at technology. So the other side, they were good at technology, not great speakers. And after the time is going on, like it's 2 years in a row now, I know of one person in particular who is now one of the greatest, the best SEs, the solution engineers. And at the start, they had a very hard time kind of conveying these
Mm-hmm.
concepts. So even if you're not technical or you're not very kind of outgoing and social, still chance it. You never know what might happen. You might surprise yourself. And yeah, just don't be afraid. That's my advice, really.
Yeah, and I mean, I kind of echo a bit what Coleman said. I think for me, it's be brave, like go on, apply for the position, be curious because I didn't know what VMware was at the beginning, so that shouldn't be an obstacle not knowing what's out there. So take your time. I think once you finish uni, you kind of feel the pressure to start working straight away, and I think taking the time to kind of look at what's there out there and what's offered, it's also good. It's good advice. And I think the last one, which might sound a bit cheesy, but be yourself. I feel like you don't really want to start a job that you don't like. So don't try to fit into the job description, job role. Just kind of be yourself. And if it's the right fit for you, then you'll be the right fit for the company as well. So yeah, I think that's pretty much from me on the advice side of things.
Yeah, that's actually, if I just to repeat some of what you said there on the advice on the kind of read through exactly, different job. offers, even if you don't go with VMware, just to make sure you know what's out there. Because, like for
Yeah.
me, I was getting kind of scared coming up to my final year of college, thinking that I was going to be a developer my whole life. I didn't know that there was jobs like this out there. So yeah, be curious and go looking for different things. Maybe you're not a technical person who loves talking to someone. Maybe you have some form of two skills that you don't really realize that they can
Hmm.
have a role together, that you have a niche. So yeah, really just get out there and start looking. Don't be settling for anything you don't want.
Hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so we're actually coming to the end now, I suppose, of all the questions. I'd like to maybe take this opportunity to thank everyone for joining. It was, thank you very much. If you have any kind of further questions and stuff, just like Sarah said before, you can find us all this information again on the careers page of VMware. So www.careers.vmware.com or Google VMware careers together. It should pop up. You can also find a lot of this information on the job teaser website as well. And even if you don't think the job is for you, maybe you have a friend who's very technical and they're outgoing, or just you think they'd be great at sales. So someone who's really outgoing, the gift of the gab, if you will, by all means, kind of share it around. It can't hurt to apply. And you never know. Maybe you'll be seeing two of our faces there in a year's time out in Barcelona. We can get glasses of beer there on the beach. Who knows?
Definitely.
Who knows? Yeah. So thanks again now, and bye.
Thank you. Bye bye. Thanks for joining.